Keo Blas, try for us. 7:43. Let's head into the KUAM News Zoom room where we have Speaker Therese Terlaje getting emotional. I think a lot of people were around the country and even here on Guam with the verdict in this Derek Chauvin trial. Madam Speaker, you were following it pretty close, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was following close, and I was so anxious about the verdict. So I'm glad you live streamed that. Thank you. That was good, and I was so distracted by that all morning.
Right, and people kept on messaging me like, "Hey, the verdict, the verdict, the verdict," and then we are an NBC affiliate, so I was like, "I think we can pull some strings and get this out there." So I'm just glad the verdict came out because we still got a whole show to do, and I wasn't sure how long we were going to jump on that stream. Madam Speaker, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I did want to just jump right into it. And this is a conversation we've been having for several weeks here on the link. And it's the $664 million question. How is the governor going to spend this pandemic relief from the American Rescue Plan? Yesterday, Adelup had put out a letter. The governor wants to meet with the legislature for their input on the $664 million pandemic relief funds she'll be getting from the American Rescue Plan. Now, in this letter, which was addressed to you and Minority Leader Chris Duenas, the governor said she'd like to meet with senators to discuss the plan to spend the money. She said that in order to transition from crisis response to economic recovery, they must adopt a one Guam approach. She's asking the legislature for a list of priorities by April 30th. The meeting date was not yet announced. Your comments?
Well, I absolutely agree with a one Guam approach. I've been asking for the same. I think the legislature as a whole has also been very concerned that, this is a huge amount of money. It's unprecedented for Guam. It's very much needed, and I think it can make an impact for generations. So we want to all be part of ensuring that we are going to make system changes on Guam going forward, that this money will be used fairly and wisely, and that we are going to lift people out of poverty. We're going to make changes to our health system and our safety system so that we can live the way we've intended to live on Guam, safely and securely here going forward with in the face of additional threats. And so that's what we've all wanted to ensure. And so, yes, I think the legislature has been preparing all this time to be part of this conversation. I've personally asked the governor on several occasions that is how we move forward, and that is really the only way. So we will be having a conversation. I think in the interim, of course, we are working on budget. Yeah. And so we have, been running our numbers and trying to incorporate the effects of the 661 million as to our local budget as well. As you know, this amount is almost equivalent to the general fund amount that we've spent in the fiscal year 2020. So right. It's and it's got huge impacts. And the law itself that's being passed is going to have impacts to come with the continuing, earned income tax credit and different revenues. So it's good news, but we just have to do our part, and we've got to ensure that the people of Guam know that we're going to put in the infrastructure that we need. Infrastructure in many areas, financial infrastructure. We're going to put in the infrastructure such as water that is very much needed. I'm glad Congress recognizes the need for that type of infrastructure. So I'm very excited when I spoke with GWA recently that they are hoping to use some of the federal funds that that are being set aside for infrastructure for bringing water and sewer to places in great need, and such as Adakau area and the Gilbaza perhaps. But I'm hoping that we can also expand that to these large tracts of Chamorro Land Trust that have gone without water or sewer, and people are living in substandard. And this is what I'm hoping that we can accomplish together, is that we are going to bring people of Guam out of poverty, and that we are going to set our systems, especially our healthcare systems, so that they will never have to go back there.
Right. And, Speaker, I mean, very, very lofty goals. I kind of like what you said about lifting people out of poverty. I guess, what do you think took so long? Because we have been talking about this since they started talking about the 600 million in the Congress when it was still, and the conversation was always like, we want to see to the table, we want to help determine how this money is going to be spent. And so this letter kind of comes. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time, really. But was
Right.
there any like behind the scenes? Maybe, hey, Gov, come on.
Well, like I've said, I've asked her personally on several occasions that the only way we're going to go forward is if we go forward together. And I know that our budget chair feels the same way, and that if we are going to, we all know that if we don't know the details of how the 661 million is going to be spent, it's going to have implications on our budget, and we are going to be guessing, and that's not going to be good for anyone. And so, but we do intend to have an impact on how that will be spent.
How is this going to temper the budget talks, right? Because you guys were just saying, and I think there was even a bill maybe about adjusting the budget with the
Right.
American Rescue Plan. So now that the governor's, letting you guys in the room to discuss this, does this kind of throw water on those plans to adjust the budget, or is that still going to be moving forward?
No, I think I'm guessing that the governor recognizes that they are intertwined necessarily, and that's why these conversations are necessary. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid the impacts of this money on budget. And the legislature, I think, has made it clear in our conversations, in our meetings with her, in our budget proposals, hearing from the appropriations chair, from the minority senators and their bill regarding, adjusting the budget based on the 661 million, that all of us are pretty much united in that, we want to have a say in where this is going to be spent. We want to, that's our role. Our role is, not to spend the money, but just to lay out the fiscal priorities for the government of Guam. And if we're going to do that properly, then absolutely we should know where that 661 million is going to be spent, know what will be the priorities for any other revenue coming in.
So the
There's a lot more coming in, Chris, besides the 661 million.
Right,
There's
yeah.
other, set asides for all these other agencies, health department, GMH, and the infrastructure projects. So all of this plays together. If we can make an impact on the fuel, we're setting aside fuel tax so that we can build roads. But if we're going to be able to build roads another way, then I think that has huge impacts on us. And so we should address this right away.
The Consolidated Revenue and Expenditure Report for March 2021 and the Special Revenue Fund Report for March 2021. Are we short $37 million?
You may be reading that right, but the details I saw were. Let me just see. I think the general fund, if you separate the general fund and the special funds, the general fund, we're short about, I think, 6 million for this month. And then overall, we had 25 million one month, 22 million another month.
Yeah.
So overall, it's like 9.6 million.
Okay. But does
for
that
6 months, right?
Yeah. Does that even matter though if we're getting this 600 some million?
Well, that, of course, depends how you spend it, right? So somebody's short 9.6 million so far, or, through all this time, they've been short, these agencies. So they've been not able to do some of the things that they were supposed to be doing. And our special funds are continuing to be short, including the highway fund, the solid waste fund, the healthy futures fund is even short, and the educational facilities fund. So they're all short. And I'm sure the governor intends to use some of the money to make up for shortfalls, such as customs, fees and different things. And we've heard her in the media promise, many different agencies that she's going to take care of their shortfalls. I think, she told that to the mayors, she told that to the courts, she told that to others, that she would take care of the shortfalls. Yeah. So we just want to see the details of that, because that takes huge chunks out of we're all dreaming to use 661 million on.
You know what else takes a huge chunk out of it is this plan to build a new hospital. The governor came out and said, right off the top, I'm taking 300 mil to build a new hospital, half of it. So when you're talking about you want to lift people out of poverty and you want to do all these different things and how pivotal this money is, I mean, it's life changing, right? Are we still going to be able to do all these things if, like, right off the top, half is going to a new hospital?
Well, of course, we'll be able to do less. But like I said, there are other funds coming in for infrastructure and other things. And so together, we should be able to, we should try to do them all. You know, I'm with the governor on that we should try to effectuate a new hospital, but there are other ways to finance it. And, you know, 300 unfortunately only finances half of a hospital. She's talking about building an entire health complex. And so, as you've seen, you know, there's even been a bill introduced by Joseph Augustine. That's another way to fund it. There are other ways. You know, I'm not particularly keen on using the earned income tax credit revenue. I think we need to make sure that we have that readily available to pay this credit out to people. That earned income tax credit goes to people. I argued this case when, you know, early on that this credit is going to working. It's to keep people working, and so that, you know, otherwise they might be able to, you know, get more benefit not working and getting on welfare. But this is to keep them working, to help families so that they can keep working, and so it gives them the credit, and it's a cash that they're going to receive. So we want that to be available on a rolling basis as they file. The other thing is, I think we should make sure that as many families on Guam are knowledgeable about that credit that is available to them when they file their taxes, so that they can take advantage of that. Now that we're being recognized, you know, that it's going to be credited to us from the federal government, then they should absolutely avail of it. And I want to make sure that we set aside a little bit just to make sure that we have a program going to help these taxpayers to avail of them.
Right. Just as the health chair, are you satisfied with the whole process? Because it kind of seemed like, and I don't know how much legwork was done before the governor came out and said, "Hey, I want to build a new hospital and take it 300 million." But so since that point, we've had Lillian on, and they've determined all these different sites, and they're really moving forward, I think, pretty quickly on this. Are you confident that as quick as we're moving, that everything that needs to be in place in terms of like accountability, transparency, and just input from all the stakeholders, is that happening?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes, well, you know, I've been to 2 meetings. They've only had 2 meetings that we were all invited to, but it was very, very clear prior to these 2 meetings, there had been several decisions that had already been made. Yes, that's clear to me. You know, I'm not under a delusion that this is where we're really going to be hashing it out. So I'm just trying to work with the process that we've been given and to have input in any other way that we can. And so, for example, they want to combine all these public health facilities together. And then during the meeting, one person mentioned, but maybe we should take mental health out because they're getting a grant right now. GURA is going to help them to build you know, if it's a federal grant, they're going to build an additional facility where they are. Right. So, you know, it's kind of like you can't. The questions when we ask them, you know, I want to make sure that we're going to build a facility based on what we need and based on what we have determined to be our priorities, you know, and that's kind of where the questions are going back and forth. We want to determine that first. So they throw out a number, we need 100 acres, right? And so I want to know, you know, how did they come up with that number? Yeah. And what are we going to use the 100 acres for? How crucial is it? I've been asking the director of public health, how crucial is it that public health be adjacent to the hospital versus, you know, 2 miles away versus, you know, 30 miles away? What is it that you're trying to share besides a beautiful facility, right? And just because there are other practicalities involved, right? We have an entire community that has set up their businesses based on the location of the hospital right now. Yeah. We have, you know, just access to services. We want access to services to be convenient. We want standard of care to be highest. And so that's what I want our priorities to be driven by. They've apparently already hired a contractor, what do you call it, a consultant. They hired Matrix again. And all of that was done prior to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it kind of seemed like, boom, the governor came out, and it's like, I was just wondering, man, it seems like there's already been a lot of work done on this
Yeah,
behind
you're
the
right.
scenes. Yeah.
You're right. They've already pretty much set the scope of work for Matrix. They've set the, they're setting parameters that they want 100 acres. They had announced where they wanted this hospital. I think, I don't know. I was concerned about ancestral landowners. If we start announcing, and now I'm hearing about it, they might ask the military to lease it to the government of Guam for hospital purposes, and in that way bypass the landowners themselves. And I feel like we have to be consistent as a government, and this is what Team Guam is supposed to be. Our one team is supposed to mean we consult each other, and then we go to the federal government, and we, are consistent in what we ask for, and that we are consistent in what we tell the public that we are going to go for, and that's all. That's
what it's supposed to be. But I think when the governor says one Guam, she means that my Guam, you come on my team. I'm the captain. You play by my rules. You go on the bench when I tell you go on the bench. Speaker, you talk about meetings with the governor. Someone who just had a meeting with the governor on Monday, Chamorro Land Trust Commission Chairman John Regis Jr. Mum is the word. They aren't saying a thing about this meeting. I reached out to Crystal Pacos and Augustine. I was told that she's got to talk with the governor to come out with a comment. That comment never came. I also reached out to the chair, John Regis Jr. Hey, what happened in the meeting with the governor? Also, no information. So do you know what happened in the meeting with the governor and what it means for the future of Jack Hattig of the Chamorro Land Trust?
No, unfortunately, I don't. And I'm as anxious as you are to understand what if the Chamorro Land Trust is able to move forward, and that's really the goal. We need them to move forward. We have hashed this out in, when the whole Barragata Heights came out, and PICA stopped everything, and the commission did so much work to lay out how they were going to resolve all the issues that, that explosion brought forward.
Yes. Madam Speaker, I'm so sorry. I just got to sign on really quick, but I definitely want to continue the answer to this question. It's 8 o'clock on the breeze. We're KUAM FM in Agatnia, Guam. We're ready to go on KUAM TV. This is the link, proudly brought to you by East West Rental Calvo Enterprises, Carrier, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Good morning.
We got your 6
at 6 a.m. with the link on Breeze 93.9 FM. Bree and I connect you with all the latest news and information you need to know to start your day.
Then check back with Guam's news leader at 6 p.m. for the day's top headlines with KUAM News Primetime.
From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and everything else in between with KUAM Digital, we got your 6. In the news momentarily, but we're continuing an interview with Speaker Therese Terlaje, and we had just popped the question about this closed-door meeting between the Chamorro Land Trust Commission Chair John Regis Jr. and the governor. And Speaker Therese Terlaje was just saying she knows as much as we do, which is absolutely nothing about what transpired in that meeting, what was said, were there marching orders given. What we do know is that leading into that meeting last week, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission had met. They, as a board, had determined that Jack Hattig was not suited for the job. And like I said earlier, in the real world, when your bosses tell you you're not suited for the job, that usually means you don't have a job anymore. But I'm not sure how the governor got folded into the equation and, whether or not they felt they needed to get her approval. But there's something going on here. Madam Speaker, you were saying that, again, you don't know what happened in that meeting. Are we going to find out?
I don't know what happened in the meeting. I'm looking forward to finding out, most especially whether the commission is able to move forward, especially with the residential leases. That's our goal, and we've got to stay focused on that and not get distracted by, all other kinds of things, which is why it was very unfortunate that land agent, pointed out that we're having more issues, because we need to address these issues. And we've been trying to address old issues. We've got new issues, and that, and this land trust, it needs all of our help. And I just thought we were looking at a chance here to really get it to move, and I really want that to happen, and it has to happen. I mean, I'm telling you, the purpose of this trust was to restore these families whose land had been taken, right? To give them a chance to build a new life. And this government delay, the government issues that we have, we can't, follow a list, we make people jump around, all of that, it's just got to end. So I'm glad that the chair stopped things when they, heard that complaint from the land agent. But we need to move forward as efficiently as possible, as quickly as we can, and with a real good procedure. Now they are having, it's challenging. We need, probably more staff than they have right now, and we just need to help them, I think, to get the money back that was taken from their survey and infrastructure fund, so that they can do the surveys and make more lots available and things like this. And so I've pointed out to every commissioner that has come through for confirmation that it is on the commissioners to hire an executive director. That's the law. It's very clear. The commissioner's power is to hire the executive director and to set the salary and to set the duties. And so I very much expect to hold these commissioners accountable for the progress that they get out of their executive director and out of their own work. And so I just am looking forward to them acting swiftly or doing whatever they need to do to make sure that we can progress.
Right. Yeah. But do you think they can progress with Jack Hattig remaining on the job? Because we know, and we've said, multiple sources confirmed that the former chair Pika had also tried to remove Hattig from his role as the director of the Tremor Land Trust Commission. And now we have these classified land agents, really risking their jobs, coming out and saying, hey, man, this guy was coercing me to do things that are against the rules and regs. The governor herself said that Jack Hattig didn't do it intentionally, that she was sure that he didn't mean to break the rules and regs, which is an admission of breaking the rules and the regs. So, that being said, when you talk about focusing on what really needs to be done, can we do that while continuing to have a director who the board has no confidence in at the helm?
Well, the board seemed to say that they could not do that. When they say they lost confidence, I'm assuming that's what that means. But I don't know. That's the board. They have to do it, and they have to act, based on what they've seen. And Chris, I haven't seen maybe what the governor has seen. If she's seen the report as to how the applications are being processed and whether this was a one fluky case where that happened, or whether it happened on many cases where the recommendations of the land agents were, overruled, that's what I would want to know as a board. I would want to know the facts, and I would act on the facts. And that's, so for me right now, I'm have to presume with their 2 executive sessions that they know the facts and that they are going to act on the facts.
But that's really...
And I just think they're trying to be, sometimes we put the nicest people on this commission. It's a volunteer commission, and they've got some very nice people serving, and not all of them are experienced with Gov Guam. Probably none of them before they got on there was experienced with media and all of this, open government law. But I appreciate their service, but I just feel like they're probably being very deferential to the governor, just out of respect. I don't know, but we can still do those things, be respectful, but act according to the law, act according to our duties as trustees of a trust for the benefit of all these beneficiaries that have been waiting for years, generations.
Right. Yeah, Madam Speaker, when you talk about acting on the facts, though, it's kind of hard to do that when they had all these discussions in executive session, right?
That's right. That's why I've written letter after letter asking them, you can have personnel discussions in executive sessions, but you need to have some discussions out where you let us know what's going on with these applications, because I want to know. And I'm not letting up on it. I still want to know. Is that an isolated incident, or did that happen repeatedly? And of course, they're pointing out the land agents seem to now be pointing out additional, and that's a good thing if they feel empowered now to, speak out and tell the facts. So that should have been how it was all along, right? You and I know that. And so I'm hoping that this commission is actually getting that in place. I mean, if you look at the land agents coming out now and saying things, then that's a good thing. It's very good.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens, because I don't think it's a good thing when you have a meeting with the governor and 2 days later, everybody's wondering what happened in that meeting. They need a PIO over there or something.
You're right. And, you know, unfortunately, these commissions are a little bit, you know, open government law also requires the commissions to act in meetings. They cannot act out, you know, just go have together and decide what they're going to do. They have to have meetings. Supposed to be so the public, we can follow along. I was following along that meeting on Facebook, just like, you know, maybe you were. Yeah. And so that's very important. And so I think they're also trying to make sure that they don't violate the open government law by having, you know, additional meetings. They have to wait for their next meeting, which is very frustrating for us. We want action right away. We wanted it, you know, last week. So,
because there was a thing with the former GORA board and the AG where they had the meetings off. So I wonder, and you're absolutely right. The part of the big issue with me is that we already are not seeing this handled in a public light because they're going into executive session, which I think is just egregious, really, and a slap in the face of these hardworking classified employees at the Land Trust. But then on top of that, we go into a secret meeting with the governor where we don't know what happened. And you're right. All of this is being handled outside the public process, and I'm assuming with the approval of the Attorney General's office, because we did have the AG on this show, and we did say, hey, what's up with this executive session? And he defended it. He said, oh, they can do that.
Because it's personnel issues. And that's why I'm saying there may be personnel issues that you go into an executive session to discuss. But these issues regarding how you're handling a certain person's application, how you're handling application, that's not at all a personnel issue. That is a public issue that every beneficiary has a right to know how they are being handled. Whether the recommendation of a land agent is being overruled by a director, absolutely public business. So, yeah, they can go into executive session for any allowable purpose, but there are still issues that the public needs to know. And Chris, yeah, speaking of public, I don't know if you know, we're having a session coming up starting this Friday, and we've got several things going on during the week of session. So in addition to the bills that we have about 8 items on right now, including the ethics bill, the bona fide farmer bill. Those are on the agenda right now. There are others. And we also have 2 resolutions. One is going to Congress regarding Medicaid. One is going to, I think, Fish and Wildlife regarding that conservation area they wanted to set around the seashores. So we're saying they should hold off on that for a while. That's what the resolution says. So those 2 items are on. I'm hoping we will be able to add on a fishermen's co-op resolution where we support community grant funding from Congress, that it go to helping the fishermen's co-op to build the fishermen's co-op facility, because the costs for the fishermen's co-op facility have increased beyond what the initial projections were, due to the seashore had to be shored up and different things that changed the engineering and changed the cost. So, you know, we set some money aside in the hot bonds for that project, and I even went to a shovel, like a groundbreaking, but it hasn't. It had to be revised because of this. So the congressman has asked us, the legislature, to submit a resolution to support his request to the Judiciary Committee back there for community grant funds for that project. We're also going to be holding on Wednesday, the 28th, a state funeral for the late Joe Thiessen Austin, former Speaker of the Guam Legislature. And that will be at 10 a.m. on the 28th, which is Wednesday. On Friday is the beginning of Law Month, and we are going to be having the State of the Judiciary address. That's also at 10 a.m. And so we're hoping to come back that afternoon on the bills.
Any word from the congressman on his address?
All I know is May right now.
Okay.
So I think he's making his plans of exactly when in May he'll be back, and that's when we're going to hold it.
last question, Speaker, regarding the Chamorro Land Trust oversight. No oversight. At what point do we decide that, hey, I got to get involved and enough writing letters? Let me get in there.
Well, I'm trying to be involved as much as possible, Chris, without overstepping my bounds. And I have discussed these matters with the commissioners. I am written letters to point out, what I think are the applicable laws that I am expecting them to be following. Of course, I'm watching their minutes very closely to see the progress on the actual residential leases. This is in their last agenda. There were, I think, 2 residential leases. And so if I have an oversight, it's going to be focused on that. It's like, why are we delaying residential leases and getting into all kinds of discussions on
Commercial.
when people come to them and ask them for a commercial lease. Right. It's not even on properties that they've decided to lease out, and they entertain all of these, which is okay if they can keep up with the residential leases, and they need to get that program smooth enough to just keep functioning. Then we've had a huge delay because of the court case, and we can't afford to delay any longer. And if you look at it as a big picture, if we're trying to tie in infrastructure to these places, and we're trying to give these people some money, we still have money available in the affordable housing grants from Guam Housing Corporation. All of these can work together to really, really provide affordable housing on Guam. But time is of the essence. It has to work swiftly and together. So yes, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this commission. I've asked them several times to show me the next large tracts that they intend to divide. And I've asked them repeatedly to get that money back that was taken from their survey fund. I've asked Mr. Byrne, I've asked the governor, I've asked the commissioners. They claim they're going to follow up and get that money back for the survey fund and survey those large tracts, get that land divided, and let's put in our water this time and get them really set up for some affordable housing.
Right. Well, Madam Speaker, you could do an oversight hearing and all that stuff, and then you could be at the end like, oh, by the way, about this whole Jack Hunting thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Chris, by the time,
maybe it'll be resolved by that time. Yeah, of course.
We have hearings on the Chamorro Land Trust. Yeah. The issue is, I do not want them to wait for that to act. They should be acting, and so that's I just think that would be really unbelievable if they have to wait for an oversight hearing in order to act on at least that after they've already made a determination.
Well, have a good session Friday, Madam Speaker, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, and take care, everyone.
Right on. There you go.
Okay.
That's Madam Speaker Therese Terlaje. 8:16. Quick break. Back with news and Jason Solis right here on the